Hello, welcome back to It's Not Just a Tuesday, the podcast where we talk about work and life and the stories that connect us all. It is another Tuesday, and I have with me today the Queen of LinkedIn, as she was called a couple weeks ago by another guest, Brenda Meller. Brenda is such an amazing mentor and business owner in the Detroit area, and she has really helped so many of us figure out how to get our slice of the pie and make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing on LinkedIn to actually connect well. So I am so excited that you are hanging out with me for a little bit today, Brenda.
I am honored to be on with you, Andrea, and thank you for that lovely bio. Sometimes when I read my own, corporate bio that I've created, I'm like, it feels kind of off. And then when I hear somebody else describe me conversationally, it always feels like so much better. So
Oh, I
I'm,
love
I'm
it.
just delighted to be on with you. It's going to be a lot of fun chatting today.
It is. So I always just want to start with letting you kind of talk about, like, I know pieces of your story, and we have, I've followed your journey, and we've done some work together, and but I want you to kind of share how you got to where you are as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and really what your journey has been like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started in corporate marketing, and my degree was actually in marketing. My bachelor's degree was actually in marketing. I started out at an ad agency and kind of went from
Mhm.
different organizations and went around in different marketing services and agencies. And my last corporate role was in higher education in marketing, and came into that organization and rose up the ranks as my boss left the company. I was promoted up into a leadership position within the role, and I was with that organization for coming up on 9 years. And it was such a great role and such a great experience. The challenge for me was I was ready to leave, but I couldn't find anything that was comparable or better. And I started looking, I was actually looking inside the Detroit market, but we actually started looking in a few other areas as well, thinking about relocating our family at the time. And I was sat down for my annual performance review. We had a leadership change, a new president coming into the institution. We weren't quite clicking. I was already looking for a job at that time, but I didn't think that what happened at the annual review would have happened, which was in the first 2 minutes, the person informed me that instead of doing the review, that she was informing me that my position was being reconfigured, wasn't eliminated, but reconfigured within the
Yeah.
institution. And I would have 3 months to stay on. And during that time, find another job. And my position would be ending, in those 3 month time period.
Oh my
And if
gosh.
I decided I didn't want to do that, then to let them know. And that was
Oh,
essentially it. And then she said, so we don't really need to do the performance review. And I
right.
was shocked to say,
Yeah.
and I said, you know what? And going through this organization, as is common with many organizations, you do a self review and then you do a review with your manager.
Yep.
And
Oh,
I
I
actually
remember
wanted to hear
those.
what she had to say about me. And I said, no, let's go through the review and let's do this.
Oh, good for you.
And
Awesome.
I'm glad I did. And at the end of the review, they always ask you to sign off on it. And there was things that were factually incorrect in the review because they have to document things and make a case for why they're reconfiguring, aka eliminating your position. So
Oh,
I chose not to sign, but I did take my copy with me. And the irony of it, Andrea, is the next day I was speaking on a panel for Inform, which is a women's organization. And the panel
mhm.
was there's four of us and we were talking about career success.
Oh my
And
God.
here I am sitting on this panel. I was wearing glasses that morning because I was crying the whole night and the whole, leading up to it. And I sat on this panel and I look back at those photos, and you would never have known, but I knew, like I knew exactly what had happened. But I kind
Women
of
are
felt like,
superheroes.
right, I felt like I was a farce. So I'm sitting up in front of this panel as a career
Oh,
success story, and here I am going through what I had been. But the good thing is, I was already looking for a job at the time. I probably took a week off just to catch my breath, think about what to
yeah.
do next, and I actually met with a friend who was a coach, and she helped me to come to the conclusion that I was done working there. That day was my last day. And I
Okay.
went back in on the following Monday and worked the whole day, but it was a really weird day. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I had made an appointment to meet with HR and the president, and I had written out what I needed to say just to keep a clear head about it.
Yeah.
But I held my head high. I stayed positive. I let them know that this was my exit plan from the organization, and here's how I wanted things to go through.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I'm proud of what I did. I have no regrets. I never looked back
Amazing.
from that. But I always tell people, Andrea, I'm glad that it happened in the order in which it did, because I never would have had the courage to leave corporate
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah.
to go on my own.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. And I feel like amazing in the sense of these are the things that happen, right? This is, I mean, life is messy. And you took that moment and said, okay, who am I? What do I want? And you were already kind of, I mean, usually I feel like if we are paying attention enough, we kind of see the writing on the wall, or our gut knows what might be happening, even if we don't know it's actually happening, right? You're already looking, right? So you already felt that uncomfortableness that prepared you for something you had no idea was coming, which is the part that I think is so amazing about just who we are as humans, is that if we actually pay attention, we can be prepared for so much more. And so you career success. Um, I love that you were sitting on that panel. So were you on the panel as your corporate
Yes.
title?
As a
Wow.
representative of my company, and they
Wow.
introduced me as my job title with my, because at the time I was still an employee of the
Right.
company,
Ugh,
and no
like what
one
a
at the
gut punch,
event
man.
knew,
Yeah,
right?
right. So then what? What happens? You know, I mean, you get the rug pulled out from under you, and you're already kind of looking for new rugs.
Mhm.
What happened? How did you go from that to being queen of LinkedIn?
So, the good thing is I had such a solid marketing background, and worked many, many years in different marketing roles. And in the beginning, when social media first came on the scene, Andrea, I was really anti social media. Anti Facebook was, like Facebook was the big first one.
Yeah.
And when LinkedIn came on, I had a mentor who worked in a marketing leadership role, who she was probably the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th person to invite me to LinkedIn, and I had a chat with her at work, and I said, "What is this thing?" And she told me about it, and I said, "Okay, a professional networking site. That makes more sense to me than reconnecting with people from high school."
Right.
And I leaned into it, and I actually, made a job change, finding this last corporate role that I had through LinkedIn, because I was
Okay.
really sick of Monster and hot jobs and everything. So I leaned
Yep.
into LinkedIn, figured out it was really changing the way the job search process was working. And
Mhm.
then when I got into my new role, I was using LinkedIn as a representative of the company, as a marketer, and as a
Okay.
leadership team member, and as a community representative as well. And I realized the power of LinkedIn in helping us to really amplify our voice, support our brand. And I started having people notice me on the platform. And occasionally, when I was a corporate employee, they would say, "Can you come out and do a talk about LinkedIn to our employees? Like, teach them what you know." And usually I would do that. And then at the end of the presentation, I would either do a sales pitch for my organization, or bring somebody in from the admissions department to talk about the degree programs or whatnot.
Yeah.
But occasionally the organizations would say, "No, we don't want any sales pitch. We'll pay you." So I had kind of checked with my HR department at the time. They were fine with it. I had set up an LLC because I started having enough of these come in where it made sense from tax purposes to split things out.
Right.
And so I had the LLC kind of in the background. I was starting to get some payments coming in. And then when when the universe nudged me forward and I had all this time, after that first week where I was just kind of like grieving the loss of my career, figuring out what to do
Yeah.
next, then I started reaching out to people. And I had such a great expansive network. People were like, "Let's meet for coffee, let's meet
Amazing.
for lunch, whatever." And when we would get together, a couple of them would say, "Well, since you have some time, can you help me with LinkedIn?
Oh,
And
I
since
love
you have
that.
some time, can you help our company with social media strategy? We don't have anything in place. And since we have
Right.
some time, can you help us with marketing? And since you have some time," and I had one time I met a friend for coffee, and I was supposed to just help her out with her LinkedIn profile. And at the end, she brought on her checkbook, and she said, "Okay, how much am I paying you for today?" And I said, "No, no, no, you're not paying me. This is just me as your friend." She's like, "You either tell me amount, or I'm going to fill in an amount. So figure
Oh,
out what you
wow.
want to pay." And she was actually, I would probably say that was the first paid client when I just started on the path towards going Meller marketing
The
full
paid
time.
client that you didn't even know you were taking, right? You
Right. Well,
hadn't
it
even
was
gotten to the spot where
directionally, I
you're
had paid clients before, but they were side hustle paid clients. Like, this
right.
was the first paid client, which was my very first step on the
So
path to
cool.
going full time. And that was in
Yeah.
October of 2017. And by December of 2017, I actually had a couple retainer clients that I was working with, and I had enough jobs that were coming in that I took a look at my job search versus this as a path. And I said, I don't think
Yep.
I need to
Right.
find a job anymore. I could actually build this into something on my
Yeah.
own. And I tell the story, my husband was trying to help find a job for me, and he was getting Google alerts for marketing leadership positions. And one day he sent me one. And the irony is, like, we're in the same household, but he would like email it to me.
Yeah.
And I emailed him back, and I had already made the decision, but I didn't tell him. And I said, sounds interesting. But it was like a sports marketing position. I'm not a sports person. I said, but who's this for? And he's like, well, it's for you. So you can find a job. And I said, well, I have a job. It's Meller marketing. And he's like, well, yeah, that's just what you're doing until you find a job. And I said, well, yeah, about that. Um,
Okay, that's
and
awesome.
that was kind of it. And, come January of 2018, I had leaned fully into the business, and here we are now in 2024, and, coming up on, almost 7 years now. So it's been really an exciting process to go
Congratulations.
through.
That's amazing. And I mean, how cool that it's funny to me because I talk to a lot of businesses, I mean, as you do, right? We talk to a lot of businesses who start up,
Mhm.
right? And they're growing. And it's amazing to me to hear how similar the story is of successful businesses and successful entrepreneurs who are like, I was doing this thing and I either worked for someone else or I was in corporate and something shifted or the rug got pulled out from under me or whatever. And I just thought I would do this thing until the real thing came along. And then all of a sudden I realized this thing is the real thing.
Mhm.
I mean, it's exactly how I started, right? I mean, I originally started my business just writing for folks back in 2008 and 2009 when social media was starting, PR was starting, the economy was doing what it did in 2008 and 9, and I was looking for a job and I was going to write until then. And one thing led to another and I did that for, you know, 8 years at that time. And then I took a break and worked full time for somebody for a few years. I call that my vacation because they just kept sending me paychecks for working 40-hour week. Yeah.
Right,
It was
when you're working for
it was
yourself, you
amazing.
gotta like you eat what you catch, so
Yes.
there's no guarantee on paycheck, so you always got to
Yes,
be chasing after or creating a pipeline of clients coming in
you
because you don't get
do.
that paycheck every 2 weeks. It's really
Right.
careful to do.
Yeah. So I was like, I took this 4-year vacation, but then in 2015 relaunched. But it really, and that was the first time that it was like with intention, right? When I really realized this is what I love to do, it was more of a, okay, well, how much do you charge?
Mhm.
Same as you, right? Somebody gets their,
Right.
and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I probably need a fee scale, a fee package. Like I probably need to know how much I charge. And it was that pick up after itself. And I mean, and some amazing businesses start with intention and strategy first. But I love hearing the story of, I'm good at this. I love this. And it just evolves into people knowing that you're good at this and love this. And then you wake up one day getting to do what you love, which is it. I mean, it's everyone's dream, right? That this is I said this morning I was at a news station with a client and someone else said, "Oh, how did you get into this and what types of clients do you work with?" And I said, "This is my dream come true. Like this is it. I'm doing the dream come true. It is hard. There are ups and downs, but I never take for granted that it is a privilege to get to either accidentally or intentionally do exactly what I want to do and what I've designed to do. And I love hearing that from other people. And it's part of the reason that I, want to hear about people's Tuesdays is because I think there are so many of those stories in us that we forget to share or aren't intentional on LinkedIn to remember to tell people like who we actually are. So talk to me a little bit, you are and I've had you review my LinkedIn pages before and I'm constantly like, "Oh, what would Brenda say about this? I need to make this better, right? I need to tweak this. There's two of these on here or whatever." And but what would you say to someone who is in that space where they're trying to share their story and they want to figure out what that looks like? And I think more specifically to to that professional world, right? Most of us in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we're in some type of career because we
Yep.
have to work, right? I say all the time, like, yes, we love what we do, but also we have to make money. So there's a balance there, right? We are in careers because we have lives also. And so that's where that balance piece of it comes in. What do you really wish that people were more confident in and were doing more of and were stepping out more of in LinkedIn, social media, in those worlds where they have the opportunity to share what they want?
Yeah, I think the big thing is a lot of people are either, if you're an employee of a company, you're hesitating about using LinkedIn because in your mind, you're thinking LinkedIn is a job search site. And if I step up my
Mm,
efforts, if I start to get more active, my coworker, my bosses, my clients are going to start to think I'm looking for a job. So if
yeah.
you're in that LinkedIn is a job search mindset, you're not going to use it the way that it really is used by most people, which is
Mhm.
as a professional networking site. So
Yeah.
I wish that people knew that LinkedIn is really more of a professional networking site than it is used by people for job search. Because if you started approaching it that way,
Yep.
then whether you're a small business owner or an employee of a company or a leader of a team, would be writing your profile to your ideal target audience, which is either your customers and clients you're
Yeah.
working with today, your team members, your fellow leadership team, your board. You'd be writing it for them, and it wouldn't look like a resume. It would
Right.
look like, more of an introduction. I mean, the introduction you gave me at the beginning of the event is kind of the example of
Yep.
that introduction. And then you wouldn't be so hesitant about posting and about interacting with others,
Yeah.
because if they came back to your profile, it doesn't look like you're using it for a job search. So I think that's
Right.
the biggest thing I wish.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I think some of that is just our evolution of the purpose of social media, right? Because LinkedIn started as this job search place, and Facebook started as reconnecting with high school friends, and Instagram started as the place where, kids post pictures of breakfast, right? Everything kind of started as its thing. They've all evolved, right? They've all become new things. And honestly, they've all kind of merged a little into being more similar than they ever used to be. Certainly still all different. And they all have their space. One of the things that I talk about a lot with clients as we're working on like personal branding and things like that is, what do I share and what platforms will I be on? I gave a workshop this week to a group of nonprofits, and one of the things I said, I know that in every workshop I give, there people are going to ask me a few questions, right? How many times a week should I post? What platform should I be on? And should we be on insert whatever the latest trending social media platform is, right? So I just always answer those questions to start, or at some point in the presentation, because I know someone's going to ask them, and then we just get that out of the way.
Right.
And so, what platform should I be on? I don't care. It says the social media person, right? Whatever platform makes sense to your audience and that you have capacity to handle. And so, yeah, if you are a professional in any industry and you're not hanging out in the place where other professionals are, that's silly. You should be on LinkedIn. If you are a professional and most of your referrals come from your neighbors and your cousins and your friends, then yeah, talk about a few business things on Facebook. It's thinking of it in a way simpler way than I think we ever have, but letting those places evolve, right? It's not just for this anymore. You're not just going there when you're transitioning jobs. And if you do, you probably haven't taken the time to show a job searcher who you actually are on there, right? It's a photo and a resume. It's not years of content of who you are, which is really what LinkedIn gets to be when you are looking for a job or when you are transitioning. It's this little photo album and content album of a bunch of your Tuesdays, which is what I call it, right? It's a bunch of, this is what I did today, and this is who I'm connected with, and this is what I like, and this is my expertise, right? That's the opportunity in those LinkedIn spaces. So I'm gonna take a break because I want to yes, I can see you, but not everyone who listens to this is going to be able to see you. And Brenda has what I would say is the perfect personal branding setup around her. And so I'm going to talk about this. She doesn't know that I'm going to do this. I just decided I was going to because
I did double check before we came on and actually did a video, and I explained to people, I opened up Zoom and I'm like, I looked at everything that was in my frame. but I said, "I don't know what their frame is gonna look like." Now I'm Zoom, it was more rectangular, we're more
Right.
square here, but I was intentional about what I put
Right.
in
And
the
that's
frame.
that is I love that, and I talk to people about that a lot because I think personal branding is everything from what you wear to what's in your background to what your setting is, and that's the same as your LinkedIn, right? When you and
Yeah,
I talked, you were like, "Well, your background cover photo could be more, and your
right.
photo, I can't see your face enough," and things like that. So, behind Brenda is, um, a photo of that says mother, that it looks like maybe your
From
daughter
Mother's
made.
Day, because we just passed
Yes.
Mother's Day weekend,
Mother's
my daughter
Day.
painted it for me.
Yes, and it's amazing. It's got mother with all of the amazing words that she is as a mother. Next to her is run faster, eat better, try harder, aim higher, love more, day by day, get happier. I can see her social media pie and get a slice of the pie. Brenda is known for saying, get your slice of the pie on social media. And then above that, Pilates. Oh, hell no. I thought you said pie and lattes. And then she's got a whole bookshelf that she just moved so I could see more of with the Friends theme page, some stuffed animals, like just everything, right?
Yeah,
What this tells me is yes, Brenda is an amazing LinkedIn coach. Brenda is also a mother. Brenda is fun. Brenda says hell no. Brenda has a brand that she's intentionally branded with beautiful imagery. I think, like, and the reason I say all of this is to just remind folks every moment that you have is an opportunity to share your story, right? In pictures worth a thousand words, right? Which is what we often try to do on social media, but words can also be words. And just in that image, I'm able to see so much of who you are, right? There's a macrame thing hanging behind you, which tells me
mhm,
like you're allowing the creativity and your motherhood and your fun and the things that you love into your workspace.
yeah.
And
Can I
we forget
share
to do
something
that.
though, Andrea?
Yeah,
Because I want everyone to know, like, I'm not perfect. This isn't all framed out. Like, the macrame thing is actually a holder for a plant, and the plant that was in there, it's an aloe vera plant that keeps almost dying, and I keep almost bringing it back to life again. So it should be holding a plant
that's
right now that I'm
awesome.
I'm not managing to kill, but I'm not really managing to bring to full life.
Love it. And
It's a
that's
balance.
and now I like you even more. Um But and no, like it's not you didn't do all of that on purpose, right? This isn't a backdrop. This isn't you didn't set this up for camera, right? This is your actual life and you've just chosen what pieces of your life you're okay with keeping in the screen in the frame, right? And I think that is so important for people to remember. What are the pieces in your frame, right? What are the pieces that you want to intentionally share with people? Whether you're on a Zoom call or whether you're making a post on LinkedIn, what do you want to share with people? I had to take a break because it's so good. I had my friend Sandy was on a little while ago, and she is an organizational psychologist. She works with venture firms and large corporations internationally, and she has photos from her that her daughter painted for her behind her, and her chair is like a gaming chair. And she said, I'm intentional about what I left in this space because I want people to know they're not working with
Mhm.
they're working with me, and who I am is really who I am. And I love when people are able to embrace that. If you are listening to this, I encourage you to let yourself sneak out wherever you can, even in your professional spaces. So this leads me to my favorite part of every It's Not Just a Tuesday, where I get to ask you and just be nosy about your life, which you share very well on LinkedIn. So I get to see lots of your Tuesdays, as do all of your followers. But most of the cool things that happen in our lives happen on a random day when we're
Mhm.
not thinking strategically and when we're not thinking about what our content is going to be. So last Tuesday, a couple Tuesdays ago, next Tuesday, talk to us about what's on your calendar last Tuesday and share a little piece of your story.
Yeah, so I actually pulled up my calendar before our call today because I'm
I
like,
love it.
Tuesday was a couple days ago. I can barely remember what I did yesterday, let alone a couple days. So I had to kind of look it up. So I actually started my day. My first every morning, I take my daughter to school. I drop her off at middle school, and then when I get home, I take my dog for a walk. Not necessarily because I want to go for a walk every day, but my dog is a black lab and she needs like 2 to 4 walks every day or she is not happy. And she's my buddy, so she gets a walk every day. And I drink my coffee, take her around the block. Sometimes we see animals. We always report to the family when we get home,
Love
what
it.
we saw on our walk. And then I usually start my day, usually around 9 o'clock with my first call. My first call this week was with Kendra Corman. We did
Okay.
a LinkedIn coaching call.
Awesome.
So we took a
Kendra's
look
been
at
on
her
the
profile
podcast. She's
together.
amazing.
Kendra too.
Yep.
And then I had a little break after that. And then I did a master class for a new program I've launched. It's called Marketing with Meller. And we talked about LinkedIn newsletters on
Love
that.
it.
Then I had some hiccups with StreamYard. So I did a test of StreamYard before my LinkedIn Live, which was at noon, with a guy named Shep Shepardian. And we had a great conversation there. I don't remember what happened after that because it's not on my
Not
calendar.
on
I
the
don't know about you,
calendar.
Andrea. Like,
It.
I know I did stuff. I know it was busy. It was probably
Yeah,
catching up with
that
all
was
the
the
things
gist
I
of the
did
day.
that morning, but I
Yeah.
have no idea, other than I picked my daughter up from school, and then I had another LinkedIn Live event that evening. I think at one point I might have worked out too. I'm not sure, but
My
that was
goodness.
kind of it. It was a pretty full day on Tuesday.
I
I just
love
remember it
that.
was really meeting heavy all day. It was
Yeah.
like back to back. It felt like that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. And I love that. I mean, there's always those things that we know are on the calendar, like take our kids to school and walk the dog, but they don't have
Yeah.
to actually be on the calendar because they are our life.
Yeah.
And I love, um, you do this for a living. So you
Mhm.
are very intentional about letting us see those different pieces of your life, right? I've seen Pepper several times, and I know that Pepper is a part of business planning for you sometimes. And that's part of what you like about being an entrepreneur is that can walk your dog in the middle of the day when you need to. And I think that is the part that's such an important piece when we're sharing, whether you have a family or whether you like to do something, right? When Laura Khalil was on the podcast and she talked about pickleball because she's really
Yeah.
in pickleball right now, right? Those things that are on your calendar, they get there for a reason,
Mhm.
right? They're important to you. I mean, your Tuesday is chock full of I'm a LinkedIn coach and
Right.
I'm going to spend my days and time making sure that everybody gets a piece of the pie. And
Mhm.
I mean, and you are amazing at sharing that, but so many people I think forget, "Oh, I did that call with someone so and so," or I'm doing this call tomorrow, and I just you forget to tell people those pieces that are
Mhm.
such an important part of letting people know how to connect with you or why they would want to connect with you,
Yep.
you know?
Mhm.
So, what do you think what are the things that and I'm gonna ask this in a different way to you because you do this really well. Um, what are the things that you think just overall we miss when we are sharing on social media, specifically on LinkedIn? What do we forget to share?
Mm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think people struggle with content. They're always trying to make it like the perfect post that's going to get a lot of engagement and that's
Mhm,
going to get the biggest amount of reach. And I think what really works best or better than that, Andrea, is like let's focus on who is your ideal target audience and what you're posting really shouldn't be about you.
mhm.
And I want you to think like we don't really care about you. Not that we don't, but
No, we
there's a
don't.
million posts that are coming
Yep.
up in our feed. We don't need to see something that's just relevant to you.
Mhm.
Let's make it interesting, informative, educational, helpful for your ideal target audience. That's what's going to draw them in. Sometimes we can do entertaining posts, which are maybe a little bit about us and it helps to keep people reading. But I think overall, you want to be thinking about on LinkedIn, when people go on there, they're in a business mindset. They've kind of got the
Yeah.
glasses on for business mindset.
Mhm.
It's almost like picking up like a Wall Street Journal. Like when you pick up that paper, you're in a business seeking mindset,
Yes.
right? Whereas on Facebook or Instagram, you're a little bit more social, you're a little bit more casual. So when I go on LinkedIn, I want to see things that are helping to support me in my business and my career goals. And the content that helps me with that is the content that's going to get me to click and read.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is I want people to know that more people on LinkedIn are what I call readers. I don't like to call them stalkers or lurkers because that sounds really negative, but they're readers and
Yep.
really they're reading. They come on LinkedIn every single day.
Yeah.
They read through the homepage feed. They might visit your profile. They might look at your posts. They might look at your company page, but they don't ever interact. And part of the reason is, they might have their own hesitations. They're nervous about visibility and things like that. Or it might just be that past experience tells them when they do like or comment, all the salespeople
Ugh,
swarm them,
right.
right? So it's better just to kind of poke around, gather the information, read, and then leave the platform without leaving your mark on it. And I always tell people, likes, comments, reactions, those are all important, but impressions are important as well. And an
Yes.
impression means somebody read it. A
Yep.
profile view means somebody visited your profile. Those are really good numbers and good
Huge.
metrics to look at. So I wish
Yeah.
people knew that.
Oh, I love that. I know we talk with our clients a lot about this is that space where we overlap, right? We, when we're doing social media strategy with folks, LinkedIn is part of that, right? But most of our clients are in a few different places. And so we are, we're not trying to be the queens of LinkedIn. We're trying to be the queens of consistency, really. Like, here's your story, get consistent with it, and who is your target audience.
Yeah.
But I think that's the big thing is people forget, when we show analytics from a month and we're like, look at the impressions that you're getting, you are
Hmm.
getting attention. And we're like, well, no one shared it, no one commented on it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
weren't asking anyone to comment on it,
Mhm,
but this many people actually saw it. It means they slowed down in the feed, right? We can look
mhm.
at the difference between the yes, storytelling and social media is amazing, but the data is beautiful, right? We can tell what people are doing. That maybe is the lurker part of it, is us on the other side looking at the data. I can tell if someone slowed down, if someone clicked in, if someone watched the video or didn't. We can see those pieces. And you're right. There are a lot. I mean, I think about how much content I look at that I don't engage with.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I'm a social media person, so I know I should be engaging, right? So I engage probably more than most people because we want to help people out and engage and
Mhm.
comment, right? We know that I know from Brenda that I need to make a comment, but it should be 8 words or more because
Right,
that's
8
going to
words
help
more,
the
yeah,
people, right?
yeah.
That's what you learn from the LinkedIn queen, by the way. You will learn exactly
Also
how to make it work.
but I think also it's not just about liking it. I mean, like, sometimes you do it because we know the peo like, if I see one of your posts or one of Kendra's or one of Laura's, like, I will always add a reaction. If I have time, I'll add a comment because I'm building up social media karma. But for the most part, I think people need to know that you're building the algorithm as you engage with people.
Yes.
So, if you're not seeing relevant people's posts in your homepage feed, you need to start interacting with more of those relevant people. And sometimes you have
Yeah.
to go to their activity feed, find a recent post, add some reactions, because that kind of retrains the algorithm. So you can seek those people out. And especially if you're the type of person who's using LinkedIn for business development, for lead generation, what
Mhm.
I like to do is send an invitation with a personal note, make it all about them. But then I go into their activity feed and find something the recent that they've posted, and I add a thoughtful comment which contributes to the conversation.
Yes.
And they're gonna go, "Wow, that was really nice of her to do
Yeah.
that." And then they see my invitation, and my invitation isn't salesy. It's a very,
Right.
"Hey, we're both in Metro Detroit. We're both marketers. Let's connect." Like, "Oh, okay. That sounds good. Let's do that." Right?
Yep.
So that's you can really just think about human nature and how people are using LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Um, we can build up social media karma, which can help our LinkedIn efforts. I think that's an important thing to know.
I love that social media karma. It's very true. And it's all about just, it's not sales, it's
Mhm.
life, right? We're all doing similar things in different places. And so I
Yep.
think that's the part to really celebrate is why do you want to connect with that person? To get something from them? That's not the reason to connect with anyone, right? Connect with them
Mhm.
because they seem like someone that you can do something for, or that it can be mutually beneficial, which
Mhm.
which is so much more important, I think, than just here's this thing. I mean, we all get
Yeah, and I
those sales
how
messages.
LinkedIn is really a long game. It's
Yes,
not something, I mean, and a lot of us, especially if you're self-employed, we're chasing after that paycheck all the time. So we want clients now. We want them this week,
yeah,
this month, not 6 months from now. But you really have to approach LinkedIn as a long game.
Yeah,
And I think the more aggressive you get with your approach, the more turned off people are going to get by that.
so
And
true.
I don't mind if an interaction doesn't lead to an immediate conversation, because if you've accepted my invitation, you're going to start to see my posts in the homepage feed. If
Yep.
I've interacted with yours, I'm going to start to see your posts more often as well. And I mean, many of the clients that come to me, Andrea, are people that are either they've been following me for years, or they
Yeah.
come to me by way of referral, so they're already warmed up. And
Yep.
I'm not doing a ton of prospecting. The prospecting I'm doing now is actually reaching back to former clients to kind of say, hey, it's been 3 or 4 years, 5 years since we worked
Yeah.
together. How are things going? Would you like to do a refresher
Oh,
with
I
me?
love
And these
that.
are easier to convert because I'm not having to do like a cold outreach to
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right. I mean, we could talk about this all day because we love social media and LinkedIn. But we're gonna wrap it because nobody wants to listen to a super long conversation that we just keep having about LinkedIn. If you do, we will do more of these. Please let us know. But I am so grateful that you came and just shared some expertise. Like I said, I have learned so much from you, and I do try to interact with all of your content just because it is so good, and I want to make sure that more people read it.
Thank you.
If you do not follow and engage with Brenda on LinkedIn, you should, or other social media platforms if you are there. But she's really just the best on LinkedIn. And please, follow her if you have questions. She does amazing coaching. Like I said, she's done some VIP session time with me just to look through like what are those best practices to really be who we are and let people see who we are, which is, as you know, what I'm all about is just, you know, we are only as unique as we let people see us to be. And that's so important to all of life in business and personal. So thank you so much, Brenda, for hanging out with me. And I will see you all on another Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening to It's Not Just a Tuesday podcast. Brenda, I'll see you on LinkedIn. Thanks, guys.
Sounds good. Thank you, Andrea.